Boker Tov. Hope you're having a great day on this beginning of the week. So, this week's Torah portion is Parshas Pinchas. And it's a remarkable Torah portion for many reasons. But one of the most powerful things is the transmission of leadership from Moses to Joshua. You see, in last week's Torah portion, God tells Moshe, you hit the rock instead of speaking to it, you will not go into the land of Israel. There will be another leader. And Moses comes pleading to God this portion that God should give and bring a new leader to the Jewish people. That will go out in front of them and will bring them back in. That will shower them with love. And God tells Moses, Tina mehodcha, give from your presence, from your greatness to Joshua. Now we all know Moses was the greatest Jewish leader that ever lived. Anytime we want to learn leadership, we look at Moses. But it's interesting because the rabbis say, the word says mehodcha, from your light. Why from? And the rabbis say, because God told him, give some of your light. You don't have to give all of your power, all of your wisdom, all of your light on to Joshua. And the question is why? And in fact, there's an analogy that says that Moses was like the sun and Joshua was like the moon. What's the significance and why? There's the story I once heard that the definition of leaders is like windows and mirrors. You see, real good leaders, when they have a success in their company, in whatever they're leading, they look out the window and they see all the people that work under them in the company, all the people that work for them, and they say, they give them the credit. When it comes to a failure, they look in the mirror and they say, I'm accepting responsibility. Whereas bad leadership, when it comes to success, they look in the mirror. But when it comes to failure, they look out the window and they blame it on someone else. They take the credit, but they're not ready to take responsibility for the failures, as opposed to a good leader. You see, when do you see stars in the sky? You see stars in the sky primarily at night. Why not by day? Because the sun's light is so powerful that there's nothing else that could shine. The brightness of the stars is what consumes everything. The brightness of the sun is what consumes everything, and you can't see the stars. At night, the moon is a diminished light. The moon is not nearly as strong as the sun. And therefore, when the moon is shining, you're able to see the stars. The rabbis say that God told Moshe, give Joshua some of your light, not all of it. The Jews are transitioning into Israel. They've been used to a leader that was so dynamic, so powerful, so great. There was no room for others to shine next to him. Now is the time to have Joshua be the leader. But don't give him all your light. Let him be like the moon, and therefore allow the stars to shine brightly in the sky. Moses was the ultimate leader. For the generation that he took out of Egypt, people who went through slavery for hundreds of years, the state of mind they were in, they needed that power, that leader that was so all-encompassing, that could guide them and could lift them up from the depth of darkness and failure and hardship to be able to receive the Torah and usher them into the promised land. But the time came where God says to Moshe, it's time for Joshua to take over. Yes, give him mehodcha. His bright shining won't be as great as yours, but it will allow the stars to shine with them. It will allow others to have the opportunity to rise. It's interesting. One of my favorite stories of the Rebbe, blessed memory, is one year on Hoshana Rabbah. The Rebbe came the day before Shmini Atzeret when we get into Simchat Torah, and the Rebbe was at 770. And the Rebbe gave out honey cake, which is the tradition, the thousands of people that came with a blessing and wishing them a sweet year. And then the Rebbe finished. He had davened all morning, Hoshana Rabbah, we davened long. He gave out honey cake, and then he was about to go home. And when the Rebbe came out, there was a man that was there who was troubled, who was having issues. And he approached the Rebbe to talk to him. Now, the Rebbe hadn't eaten all day, and he had to come back for Hakafot that night in 770. He had a short window of 1 hour, and he had to go home. So this guy starts talking to the Rebbe, and the Rebbe listens, and the secretary tries to push him away so the Rebbe could go home to eat. The Rebbe looks sternly at the secretary, excuse me? And the Rebbe continues talking to him. The Rebbe ends up talking to him for 45 minutes, and the Rebbe doesn't go home. He goes back in, and he goes down to Akafot. That night, the Rebbe had a heart attack, which was life-changing. And the Rebbe almost lost his life then. And I always think back to that. What's the leadership of the Rebbe, that even the guy who was troubled, who was regular, who was simple, the Rebbe made time and made him feel important and made him feel good. The Rebbe let those stars shine. That was the power of what the Rebbe was. You know, today is the yahrzeit of a remarkable woman, Myra Kraft, Aleha Shalom, a blessed memory, who I had the honor of meeting countless times. I didn't know her very well, but I'm very close to her dear children, Dan and Wendy and Joshua and Jonathan and Patty, and of course Robert, who's a dear friend. In fact, just a couple of weeks ago, he read and chanted his bar mitzvah of Torah, a second bar mitzvah, so beautifully. Myra was a leader who had a tremendous passion for Israel and also for Yiddishkeit. Every event she did was kosher. Even if she wasn't, she wanted the events to be kosher. She wanted everyone to feel welcome. She wanted to instill and push CJP through her involvement to do more for Israel and to be more engaged. She made so many missions to Israel. Remarkable. And very often I meet people who met Myra. One person told me, I'll never forget this. His father was the cleaning person at CJP. And many times he bumped into Myra after a meeting or by when she was there for a meeting with the board. And he was just cleaning. And she said, she always made me feel so good. How are you doing? And she made me feel important about my job. She offered him tickets to the game. It was that, knowing that every little person counts, that the stars count. It's not just the sun and the moon. That you need to let the stars shine. She was strong at that, and her passion from Israel. And the truth is that you see it in her kids, Dan and Wendy. I mean, their passion for Israel, their love for the Jewish people, their commitment to being proud Jews and wearing it, their children, their grandchildren, you see it. Josh, who's running for mayor, only wants to give back. I know him for so many years, his empathy for others. And Jonathan, of course, all he does, Jonathan and Patty, for the hospitals, for medicine, for Judaism is remarkable. But you know, that gift that Robert has too, that he comes to show, it could be hundreds of people. He'll be reading his bar mitzvah parsha, but every person who stops him, he'll talk to them, he'll smile at them, he'll give them a good word. When he came a few of the times to read the Torah, he came with tickets in his pocket, and he went over to the security guards and to the people working that might be insignificant to others, and he wanted them to know how important they are and how valued they are. That's a gift that we have, and we're blessed to have them in our lives. So I wanted to dedicate today's Dvar Torah to Myra, Allah Shalom, that her neshama should have an aliyah, and that we should learn from what God told Moses to Joshua. You see, we have to be able to lift and to allow others to shine. Remember that when there's a success, look in the window and see those who work with you, who work for you, and give them credit. And when there's a failure, have the courage to take responsibility of that and for that. The Rebbe taught us that in such a powerful way. Myra did, and so many leaders that come with them. May Hashem give each and every one of us a great week, and may we always have simchas to celebrate.